Hi, everybody. Welcome to the National Cyber League Fall 2023 Award Ceremony. It was a record-breaking season with incredible accomplishments this season, and we're so happy to have you join us to help celebrate the NCL community. This evening is made possible by presenting sponsors, CrowdStrike and Ciphertext Solutions. Their continued support and sponsorship of the NCL allows us to continue to bridge curriculum to careers and provide resources and community engagement season after season. This evening, we begin with welcoming remarks from the NCL Commissioner, Dr. David Zaitchik. We will then hear from the NCL Board Treasurer, Dr. Kostas Teregas. And then I'm thrilled to welcome our special guest, Dr. Daniel Ragsdale, who will be our keynote. We will then move into recognizing top individuals and top teams, and we will wrap up the event with a shout out to our Spirit Week supporters. We are excited to also share the highly anticipated spring 2024 season dates. Directly after the ceremony, we will have a Q&A with the Cyber Skyline team hosted by Toby Lynn with guest Dylan Watson from CrowdStrike. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage NCL Commissioner Dr. David Zaitchik, Assistant Professor at California State University, Chico. David, when you're ready, take it away.
Great. Well, thank you and welcome everybody to another awards ceremony. As Emily mentioned, this was another record-breaking NCL season. If you don't know, we had almost 10,000 participants for the individual game, which is just amazing. And with that, I do want to take a moment to thank Cyber Skyline, our partners in actually making the NCL happen. So thank you, Franz, Toby, Emily, Ashley, Lauren, Connor, Tristan, and Max. You guys do an amazing job. So congratulations to you for helping us with another amazing NCL season. All right, next slide. So what I'd like to do now is introduce one of our esteemed board members. He is the treasurer of the NCL, and he is here to help with a very important introduction. So Kostas, please go ahead, take it away, and let us know who is going to be our guest speaker today.
Thanks very much, David. There's no secret that our speaker is going to be Dr. Daniel Ragsdale. He goes by the name of Rags, and he's done that his entire professional career. He's a fantastic man. I first met him 20 years ago when he wrote or co-authored a paper titled Exploring a National Cybersecurity Exercise for Universities in 2005. 2005 is almost 20 years ago, and he had the vision to say cybersecurity competitions belong in the university space. If I took you back to 2005, there were no competitions in the university space. So what we see is an evolution of a dream into reality. So it couldn't be more fitting that in this season that almost top 10,000 players, Rags is going to be our speaker. To give you just a brief note on his career, he's a Deputy Assistant Director of the Office of National Cyber Director here in Washington, D.C. He serves in the Workforce and Education Directorate. He was an early pioneer in the cyber competition arena, as I mentioned, led the development and execution of numerous large-scale competitions. He authored and co-authored numerous articles. Prior to joining the White House, Rags has been both in industry as well as in the government. He was the Vice President for R&D in 26 Technologies, joined him in July 2021 after completing a 40-year career in the Department of Defense. In his final role in DoD, he served as an acting Director of Defense Research and Engineering for Modernization, which is an Assistant Secretary of Defense level position. So we're very honored to have Dan join us. He was also the founding director of the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Center, program manager at the DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and many other important positions. The last thing I want to say is that he's done 30 years in the U.S. Army in various operational, R&D, and educational roles. including as Vice Dean of the U.S. Military Academy. His combat deployments, and we thank him for his service, include Operations Urgent Fury in Grenada, Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, and Iraqi Freedom in Iraq. And the most important sentence, he has a bride of 41 years, Cindy, and they're the proud parents of 3 current or former military officers with a combined 34 years of active duty service in the Army, Navy, and Air Force. I can't think of a better person to bring us greetings and bring us some reflections on this important career and on competitions. So, Rags, take it away.
Can you hear me all right? Did you get a thumbs up? Okay. Thank you. I can't begin to tell you how appreciated I feel. I'm actually a little emotional just considering some of the things that you mentioned, and I want to start here with to make this very specific point. We're here for just a few minutes. Yeah, I've gotten a few minutes to share with you what I would hope that I could draw upon my own life experiences, particularly with respect to cyber competitions, an area that I have focused on really, frankly, for the majority of my professional career. And I want to allude to remarks made by Maya Angelou. You know her as a poet, laureate, biographer, civil rights activist. And she once famously said, "People will forget what you say. They'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." And tonight, I hope all of you in this fabulous community, that you feel respected, that you feel admired, you feel appreciated, and perhaps to some extent, even inspired to continue to do the kind of things that brought you here today. I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that cyber competitions help develop skills that are so important and so necessary across, for not just our economic security, but frankly for our national security and for global security. The work you're doing is so important, and I want you to feel appreciated because you've done the work. You have sacrificed in order to get to the level that all of you are at today. You set aside entertainment. You denied yourself sleep. You may have even denied yourself food and other creature comforts in order to learn through preparing for and engaging in these cyber competitions. It's tremendously admirable that you have done this, and you've seen the benefits. You have learned, you have grown, you have developed, you have chosen that more difficult path. You have along that path, you have failed, and you have failed, and you have failed, and you have failed again. But the beautiful thing that you've all learned, because you can't compete, you certainly can't compete in cyber competitions without failure. Either as an individual or as a team, you're going to try many things before you find the solution or get that flag. But you have appreciated one of life's true maxims, that when you fail, it is not a failure unless you fail to learn. And you have seen that, and you've seen the fruits of your efforts. Through many failures, you have ultimately achieve success. And that success is not just getting that flag, but it's acquiring new knowledge, new skills that others don't have. And I want to make sure that's clear. You have chosen to build upon and complement what you've learned in other settings, in traditional classroom settings, for example, and taking that knowledge you've acquired there, and in combination with the efforts of others, you have achieved truly, truly great things. You should feel great joy, frankly. And it's what I observed early on with cyber competitions, that when you achieve success, either against individuals, against teams, if you're competing in team on team, or against a body of work or a body of knowledge, that there's great satisfaction that comes through fighting through that adversity, engaging in deliberate discomfort, because the struggle is real. You've all felt that struggle. None of you blew through any of these competitions without much effort. All of you had to learn and grow and develop. And I think in doing so, my hope is that you'll be inspired to take that same approach throughout your professional lives. That same desire to learn, that same desire to achieve, that same desire to accomplish. Because I will share with you something that I was pleased to learn at my father's at my father's knee, frankly. And he said, you know, in life, you have a choice to make. You can lead a life where you pursue comfort, or you can lead a life with meaning. And it's my assertion that all of you in this group have decided to set yourselves on a path where you will have a life of meaning. Not a life of comfort, but a life where you're going to make a positive difference, where you're going to make contributions in your communities, in your workplaces that are going to make a positive and consequential difference. And I want to now put this in the context of national and economic security or global security. The threats are real. The threats are ever increasing. And that means that we need to continue to up our game. And we up our game by deploying and developing more advanced technologies. But as far as I'm concerned, and I think it's very clear by virtue of the office that I'm working for, that technology is certainly a strength that frankly we happen to still continue to be the engine of innovation for the world. People will beat a path to our door to study in our institutes of higher education and to engage with our companies that are at the bleeding edge of technology. Unfortunately, we may be at risk of losing that edge if we don't develop skill and reskill young, middle-aged, and even older Americans with the skills they'll need to contribute in this advanced in the future world in which these advanced technologies will be available to all of us in the workplace and to support our personal and professional lives. And we need individuals in the workforce that are equipped with those skills, and they will only come through, from my perspective, through experiential learning opportunities such as the one that that you are pursuing by virtue of competing in these competitions. So I want to go back to where I started and make sure that all of you feel respected, you feel admired, you feel appreciated, and hopefully to some extent, perhaps even somewhat more inspired to continue to do what you've done to get you to this place. It has been a great honor for me to have this opportunity to get a chance to engage you, albeit virtually. But I will offer to all of you, if at any point in time you would like to reach out to me personally for advice or counsel as you approach the important life decisions you're going to make through your studies and into your professional life, I would certainly be more than happy to engage with you. So thank you again for the organizers, Costas, David. Costas, great to reconnect. And you know, we're probably just a quarter mile from each other on any given day. It's been a true pleasure and a great honor to be with you here tonight. Thank you very much.
And we thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I do want to make sure everyone knows that speaking of emotion, we are proud of all of you, and we are constantly amazed by your dedication and achievements, both in this competition and through this competition. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Braggs. We appreciate your time in coming to speak to our NCL players. I know it means a lot to them to have you come and say some great words of encouragement and recognition. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Virtual applause.
Thanks.
Sure. Well, it's now time to recognize some of our standout players. But again, I do want to recognize everyone who participated in the NCL. We do know how much time you put into this competition, and we also hope and know that you are getting a lot out of this competition as well. So all that time put in, I know will serve you well in the future and serve you well during job interviews and the rest of your college career. So that's to everybody. Congratulations, everybody. Now let's talk about some of our top individuals. So we're going to start with what we're calling the standard leaderboard. And in third place, we have Kevin Shu from the University of Colorado Boulder. Congratulations, Kevin. You earned 2,810 points with an accuracy of 87.16. That is amazing. Congratulations, Kevin, on your achievement. Yay. All right. Moving on to second place, we have, drum roll, Christopher Reed from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Christopher, 2,810 points. That is amazing. Plus, with some incredible accuracy there, 94.2%. Congratulations on your second place finish. So there we have 2,810. That's what we got for first place. Our first place winner, Lloyd Gonzalez, 2,820 points. That is pretty tight there. So congratulations, Lloyd, from the University of Nevada, Reno. An impressive accuracy of 96.3%. That is just incredible. Way to go. Way to represent your school. Nicely done, University of Nevada, Reno. All right. We are now moving on to our experienced leaderboard. So we will start with our top individuals on the experienced leaderboard. In third place, we have Cameron Bettridge, also from the University of Nevada, Reno. Way to go! With 2,710 points, nicely done, and an accuracy of 90.78%. And when I say these accuracies, I know people who are listening in that competed in the game. That's just impressive. I know everybody that has some of those lower accuracies and didn't make this leaderboard. I'm sure everybody is just in awe of these high accuracies. So congratulations, Cameron. And in second place for our experienced leaderboard, we have Paul Kim from the University of North Georgia. I'm guessing that's not your dorm room. That's an impressive desk that you sit behind there. So congratulations not only on the impressive desk that you have, but congratulations on getting 2,820 points with an accuracy of 92.86%. Nicely done. And in first place, we had Andrew Effenhauser. Andrew, I think we've seen you here before. You are a repeat on our leaderboard. It's always amazing to have you back. And I now see that you are now with San Jacinto College. So you have graduated high school and continue to lead our leaderboard. Congratulations, Andrew. 2,900 points with a very impressive accuracy of 92.2%. Way to go. Welcome back. You're just an incredible performer. That's all I can say. It's great to see you, and it's great to see you moving on through your educational career to San Jacinto College. I'm sure they are very happy to have you there. All right. Moving on to the top teams. So this is our standard leaderboard. And in fifth place, we have those pictures. FitSec Socket League from the Florida Institute of Technology. FitSec, you got 2,790 points with an accuracy of 95.92%. Congratulations. And in fourth place, once again, we've got some Rensselaer Cactus Collaboratory. Way to go, Cactus people. You guys had 2,800 points with an accuracy of 93.84%. That is outstanding. So again, look, 2,800 points. That was fourth place. Let's see what we have for third place. I've seen
Yay!
these before. 2,860 points is Team User 0 from Chico State. That is Cal State University Chico up here in Northern California. You guys, 2,860 points. Way to go. You guys had an accuracy of 83.43%. Congratulations, Chico State, for a return to the leaderboard. And in second place, who do we have? We have SANS.edu. This is Team Sentinels 387. So SANS.edu, Sentinels Team 387 from the SANS Technology Institute. SANS, you guys are doing a great job there. You keep producing some amazing teams and some amazing players. It's great to have you back every season, and look what you produced. Another great team here on our standard leaderboard, coming in second place. You guys got 2,870 points with an accuracy of 93.42%. Way to go, SANS. And coming in at the top of our leaderboard, top team, look at that, the United States Military Academy. Their team is Bits for Everyone. I like the name. Very nice. And you guys got 2,920 points with an accuracy of 89.7%. Amazing. That is just incredible. Way to go, United States Military Academy. It's great to see you here on the leaderboard, coming in at the very top. That is impressive. Thanks for participating. Okay. We are moving on to the very last category here, which is the experienced leaderboard. So we're again looking at our top teams in the experienced leaderboard. So who do we have at fifth place? Well, Cyber at UC Bearcats. So from the University of Cincinnati, you guys got 2,855 points with an accuracy of 78.77%. Nicely done, University of Cincinnati. Good to see you guys on the leaderboard. And then fourth place. Coming in at fourth place, Brigham Young University, the BYU Siberia. 2,980 points, almost a perfect score there, with an accuracy of 90.57%. That's amazing that you guys got so many points and came in fourth place. That means our competition is pretty darn tight here. So you guys should be super proud of that, getting almost all of the points. That is amazing. Fourth place. You guys are amazing. Way to go. All right, moving on to third place. Who do we have? Well, we had the University of North Georgia Bite Bandits at UNG. You guys, wow, look at that. 2,990 points. Oh my gosh. With an accuracy of 97.97%. How can you do better than that? That's just incredible. Way to go, Bite Bandits. Nice to see you guys on the leaderboard. And in second place, this might blow your mind here. Hey, we got SANS. But what's going to blow your mind is they got 3,000 points, a perfect score with an accuracy of 99.32%. SANS.edu Sentinels Team 575 with a second place finish with a perfect score. You guys did great. It's hard to believe that a team beat you. But guess what? We did. So we had a team that also got a perfect score, of course, and an accuracy of 99.32%. This is the former Gifted Kids version 2, and this came from a bunch of different schools. We have, can you read all that, Emily? You want to read off the schools there? If we zoom in a little bit.
I don't know if I honestly can. I don't think actually those are schools on the page. I think those are like nicknames.
Nicknames? I think, oh, they're nicknames. Sorry. Oh boy.
It's
Okay.
it's like an inside joke maybe, but yeah.
Yes, I know there's a couple. I know a couple of those schools there. We don't have the full list, but we do have WinRM. I think I see Glide Pixel. Okay, great names. So congratulations on this just outstanding achievement. 3,000 points. Come on, and a 99.32% accuracy. That's amazing. You guys are incredible. So way to go. I don't know if you're the former Gifted Kids, but you still are the Gifted Kids. Former Gifted Kids version 2. Way to go, top teams. As you can see, our competition is just, you guys are just excelling. This is a super tight race. So just getting on the leaderboard is getting extremely difficult. So all of you getting teams getting in the 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st place, getting on that leaderboard is outstanding, given all of the competition, this high level of play that we're seeing in the NCL. And also just remember, this year we had almost 10,000 players. So that is a lot of people to be competing with. So it's something that I hope, I'm sure you guys have the emotion of the excitement and the honor of getting to the top. And I just want you guys to know that we recognize that and appreciate it, and wish you luck, and also hope to see you back for more competitions. I don't know about those teams that got 3,000 points, if they can grow, but there's room for improvement for everyone. So we're hoping that you guys will continue to return to the NCL, continue to learn, continue to excel, and more importantly, continue to have fun. Because I know this is a fun competition. My students are always saying how they love solving the puzzles that are presented to them. So Emily, I'm going to hand it over to you to continue and tell us what else we have coming up here for us.
Sounds great. Thanks, David. And once again, congratulations to everybody. This is such an amazing achievement. I'm always impressed when I reach out to the teams, individuals for their photos, just the enthusiasm, just responding to me, sending me a photo. So just see everyone's points and accuracies and just be able to celebrate you all here is a real joy for me. So once again, congratulations, everybody. And to talk about celebratory events, this week we actually wrapped up our 3rd Spirit Week. So this is really exciting. We had a bunch of career prep activities and events, and College Pitch Day and Hack My Resume were new additions to our list of ongoing activities. We were thrilled to have hundreds of our community members participate. And next season, we hope to have even more exciting events sprinkled throughout the season. And we look forward to promoting valuable resources for you all, the NCL community. So if you didn't get a chance to join us live, all of these events also are going to be on our YouTube channel. And just keep your eyes peeled. We're always having new and exciting events to support you all. So thank you for everyone joining us and being interested in the different events that we have, and also promoting the events outside of the community. The more we can grow the NCL, the stronger we'll be in the cyber community as a whole.
Exactly. And just to point out too, we're not just a competition. As you see, we're a whole community. So we have lots of opportunities to continue to help pursue your cybersecurity passion. So we have everything Emily listed here. Plus we have the Discord channel that is, alive and well, in many, many ways to stay connected to us. So thanks for that, Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for sharing about that. It's so true. We have so many different avenues that we're making sure that we're giving just the best resources, time, and attention to our community. Our mission truly is to bridge curriculum to careers, and we do that by getting you face to face with those that you can network and recruiters, and being able to strengthen resumes and have discussions with people. Even Dr. Ragsdale said, contact me if you could, need some advice. How amazing is that? And that's exactly what we do at the NCL. It's more than just a competition. We want you to succeed in life and to have a community that you can always come back to. And that's actually a great segue to this particular slide, because this is all possible because of our Spirit Week supporters, because of just NCL supporters in general. There's many ways and shapes and forms that people can take to support what we're doing at the NCL. And just the people on this list is just a small snippet of just the support that we see on a continuous basis. So we truly could not have successful events without our amazing supporters and volunteers. So a huge thank you to everyone on this list for their time, their dedication, and their enthusiasm for our growing community. And we'd love to see this list grow every time we have our Spirit Week seasons, and just acknowledge those that give their time to make you all successful. All right. Well, I was actually going to ask David if you would like to go ahead and share these competition dates. I feel like it sounds more exciting when it comes from the commissioner, and I was like, you know what? Go ahead and take it away, David.
Great. Well, I'm super excited to announce our spring season. These are the dates. You're going to want to mark them on your calendar right now, because those are going to be some busy weekends for you coming up. So our regular registration is going to open on January 29th. Not very long from now. Late registration will be March 23rd through 26th. And then our practice game, just a few months away, is going to be the week of March 25th to 31st. Individual game, April 5th to 7th. Team game, April 19th through 21st. And look at that. You guys are going to have like 5 months basically to work in the gym. So the gym will be open all the way through from January 29th all the way through May 24th. So lots of time to keep practicing.
Perfect. And that really is going to wrap up our event. I'm going to go ahead and ask David, do you have any final remarks before we go on to our segue to a Q&A with the NCL game creators?
Yeah, well, I don't want to take too much time away, because I know people are sitting here ready to get in and talk to our game creators, pick their brain, figure out what those challenges are. It's exciting to talk to these guys. Toby always impresses me with what his team comes up for these competitions. So now it is your opportunity to hear directly from Toby about the challenges that are coming up, or the challenges that were covered in the previous season. So yeah, once again, thank you all for joining us on this call for Celebrate You Guys. So we are super happy to do this every season. And it's great to see, the repeat names and the new names and the new teams coming in and practicing. This thing is only going to get bigger. It's going to keep growing. So thank you for your participation and dedication to the NCL. We really appreciate it.
And I just want to take just one last moment to thank Costas for joining us. It's a wonderful treat to have you join us for the award ceremony. And an enormous thank you to Dr. Ragsdale for joining us this evening, giving us your time. And I had mentioned in a previous conversation, thank you for shining your light on the NCL. It's really important for our community. And your talk was very inspirational, I believe, for everyone who is live on this meeting, and those who are going to be watching and recordings in the future. We truly appreciate you joining us, and it really created a wonderful sense of occasion. So thank you, sir. And thank you to everyone who made this possible, all of our team members. We're a small but mighty team, but we believe in all of you, and we want to do the best to support you all. So congratulations once again. Thank you, David, NCL Commissioner, for moderating this evening. And we're going to go ahead and do a slow transition to Toby Lynn and the game creators. If you see over here on the right-hand side, you can go ahead and request or request a question at menti.com. And then you're going to go ahead and use that code. So the code is 275-2926. So if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to go ahead and put those on there. And I will slowly disappear into the ether. And Toby, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it over. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So we're going to transition over to the Challenge Creators Q&A right here. So we have right here myself. I'm Toby Lin. So I am the head behind some of your support tickets. I am sometimes also floating in the community Discord right here. Also with me today is a special guest from CrowdStrike. So we have Dylan from CrowdStrike right here joining us as part of the Q&A. Dylan, do you want to just give a brief intro for yourself?
Sure, absolutely. My name's Dylan Watson. I'm an associate consultant on the CrowdStrike professional services team, specifically working in incident response and digital forensics.
Excellent. Thank you, Dylan. And also with us today are folks on our engineering team. So we have, oh, look at that, name tags. Perfect. So we have with us Franz, Tristan, Connor, and Max. Wave hello to everybody right here. So excellent. As actually a fun fact before we get started, this is something that some folks may already know if you have been in the Discord. We've actually shared this quite a few times before. Every single person that's on our team that makes the challenges for the NCL is actually a former NCL player. So every single one of us that creates the challenges have been a player. We have seen the process. We have been awake through odd hours of the day. We have, like Dr. Rexdale said, forwent some sleep, some food maybe, and just other creature comforts as well. So we are 100% there with you all. Max right here is our most recent addition, joining us also from Chico State. Actually, they were leading the leaderboard last season, and Max was actually on the team with Chico State there as well. Connor's also from Chico State. Was on the winning team as a while ago now. It's like what, 2019, 2020?
2018.
It's been a moment.
Bit.
Been a moment there. And then Tristan also is a former NCL player, also in the pre-2020 era there. Is that right, Tristan?
Yeah, pre-2020.
That all checks out. Excellent. And then for Franz and myself, we're basically boomers at this point. We played back in in the NCL, actually, fun fact, back in 2014 and 13. We're looking at literally a decade ago now. So we have a lot of respect and appreciation for every single player out there, especially those who have dedicated their time into the NCL and have played in it. It's every single year when we on the game creator side, when we look at all the both the stiff competition and also everybody who is trying their very best to solve these challenges, it's just incredible for us to see that on our side as well. So we really enjoy seeing everybody's participation, whether it's your first season or your 8th season. It's always super, super exciting for us to see. So congratulations to everybody who participated. Playing in cyber competitions in itself is already a huge achievement in our opinion. So congratulations to everyone. So with that, we are going to transition into the Q&A session. So we have everybody on the team that has built the challenges. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to share some insights with you all. So any tips, tricks, techniques that y'all are interested in asking, feel free to raise that, and we will try our very best to answer your questions. We'll also talk a little bit about sort of like from the challenge creation side, what are some of our personal, most interesting challenges that we're to create. So we'll also spend a little bit of time on that as well. And then with Dylan, we'll ask him to kind of relate some of the CTF challenges two workforce roles. So Dylan here, being on the CrowdStrike team, has done a lot of incident response, has done a lot of digital forensics types of activities. So he can really help you shed some insight into that as well. So what we really want for this opportunity here to be is not only for you to understand how to solve some of these challenges, but how to apply your skill set in these CTFs towards the industry, right? We know a lot of the times that students will see a job request opening saying you need 1 to 3 years of experience minimum for an entry-level position. A lot of times that can feel really defeating. You're like, well, I don't have 1 to 3 years of experience working, so how am I supposed to get a job just to start working if I don't even have that very baseline requirement met? So a lot of it is being able to position your experience in cyber competitions and being able to talk about those and talking about the skill sets and the tool sets and even some of the techniques that you were able to leverage within these CTF competitions and challenges, and then talk about how that may apply to some on-the-job experience there. And then this is where we'll have Dylan chime in on how that may be able to help, how you may be able to help translate some of these CTF skills into some of those workforce skills that are very much in demand today. So with that being said, Franz, do we have some questions queued up right here?
Yes, we do. And as a reminder, if you have a question, you can see this up on screen. You can go to menti.com, enter in the code, and you can ask your question there. You can also vote on the existing questions to put them at different places in the queue. I figure we probably want to start with a couple of the questions about some of the challenges, so we can get some of the background and understand how those relate to what you might see in the workforce. And so the first question I have out here, could you please describe how to solve the WPA question?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So that particular challenge was actually created by myself. So in that WPA question, you were given a configuration file from a tool called WPA Supplicant, which is a tool that generates the credentials that are stored on a device for any wireless networks, and they store it in a mostly secure fashion, in that you can just reverse back out the plain text very easily. So it is hashed, it is protected, but we can still crack the password on that one. So for that particular one, the very first thing to do is to find out exactly what kind of hashing algorithm does the WPA password there use. So to do this, you can run some Google search queries, specifically WPA supplicants, password hash algorithm, for example, and then you'll probably end up on a website which I've linked in the chat right here. So that'll describe to you what the hashing algorithm is, and specifically it's going to be a PBKDF2 algorithm with a SHA-1 digest. And there's also specific parameters for how many rounds, and also, actually, no, that's it. How many rounds is the key thing there that gets used. So, and you'll also be notified that it uses the SSID as part of the salting there as well. So with those two things in mind, you can either write your own script in order to then crack the password, or you can actually load this into a tool like Hashcat. So Hashcat is a password cracking tool, super useful in the password cracking category. There is a specific mode for cracking this particular hash format, and that mode, if my memory serves me correctly, is literally mode 12,000. So this is where you can do some additional research into how can you format the hash into a manner that Hashcat will ingest it, and then so on and so forth, run it with a pre-curated word list. For that particular one, you can actually start with RockU as the word list. the very first SSID, the password for it is included on the Rocky Word list, and you'll start to see that the password is themed around the city in which they're located in. So the very first SSID alluded to the Big Apple, which many people will know refers to the New York City. And even if you didn't, a quick Google search will be able to pull that up for you as well. So for all the other ones, there's Emerald City. There was what else? There was I'm trying to remember what other cities were involved. Charm City was also involved. So Emerald City is Seattle. Charm City is Baltimore. And then we also had, what was the last one? Cigar City, which is Tampa, Florida. So you can look up those things online and then build your word list based upon the city names, and then run that through Hashcat in order to crack it. So very, very great question. We also thought about using something like the Windy City, for example, which is, we wanted to do something that maybe not everybody has heard before outside of the Big Apple to start with. So excellent. So let's go to another question here, Franz.
And if there's a specific question you want to take, just let me know. I can pull it up.
I have no idea what the questions are, so we can just pull up another one.
Okay. So I guess one question, let me see here. There is, sorry, I'm trying to like look at the truncated versions here. So how should we add the work experience of this competition with the start and end date of the current NCL season? So I guess this is, how do you take your experience within NCL and apply that into your resume, and how does it help you apply for jobs?
Yeah, so really good question. For something like the NCL, generally speaking, you wouldn't necessarily add it as part of your work experience, but you'll add it as part of, say, your activities or your club involvements on campus, depending on what your method of engagement there is, right? So a lot of the times what we see is students, they'll put NCL as a competition that they participate in or as part of their club activities. Both options are fine. And then what you really want to highlight on is specifically, well, what did you do in the NCL? Maybe what were some of the challenges that you were able to solve, for example. So, and highlighting the specific tool sets that you used, that really helps employers when they're reviewing resumes in order to understand what it is that you can do and what it is that you might be potentially interested in. So those are really key things to highlight right there. And this is actually a perfect time to transition to Dylan for some thoughts on that. Like Dylan, for some of the roles that maybe that you're most familiar with, what are some of like the key tool sets or maybe like techniques or experiences that people should highlight in order to jump into a career in incident response or digital forensics, for that matter?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I'll say about that is hiring managers in this field. We think of cyber as this big thing, and it is, right? It includes companies like Cyber Skyline, it includes consulting companies like CrowdStrike, it includes all of government and software. But ultimately, it's, as I'm sure most of you know, it's a very tight-knit community, and so the people that are hiring you, by and large, are familiar with these competitions, right? They're familiar with the fact that CTFs are a part of what college students and even working professionals do to touch up on their skills. And ultimately, we do it because we like it. I wasn't an NCL competitor myself, but I was a competitor in Cyber 912 and WMGIC NATO and a bunch of other ones. And so to add all of those, like Toby said, like I specifically touched on those in its own little area, including any like awards that you might win. And then skills is an important thing. Skills from competitions, skills from courses that you've taken, right? If you had to take like a capstone course or a course where you had to build something that is, of a decent amount of work, can be really great. And then talking about like maybe tools that you have expertise with, different areas in my field, right? That would be if you have expertise with a particular subset of forensics, whether that's like Windows host forensics or network forensics or firewall analysis, right? Or something like that, as well as adding in soft skills and things of that nature. I think something that's important to note is like, kind of echoing what Toby said earlier, like work experience is great, right? If you've worked an internship, if you've worked in a SOC, if you've worked a job, but ultimately nobody's necessarily expecting that coming out of college. And so being able to demonstrate those skills and then in an interview, speak to not only what skills you have, but where you got them from, right? Like I honed my skills in this particular area of digital forensics through, competing in NCL for 3 years in a row, as well as like CCDC or something like that. Could be really, really great. I'm also seeing some awesome comments in the chat, and I agree with everything that's being said there.
Very nice. So yeah, thank you for that insight there, Dylan. So again, it can be NCL. I know there's lots of folks who also participate in competitions like CCDC or CPTC. I know Cyberforce is also one that comes up fairly often. Anything and everything that you do within the realm of cybersecurity competitions or events like that, you can 100% incorporate that, and then talk about the skills and tools that you used during those competitions with a hiring manager, with a recruiter. That will really show off a lot of your knowledge and skill set if you don't necessarily have those internship or years of experience under your belt. So definitely do that. There's also the NCL scouting report as well. So for your individual game, everybody should have received that. For the team game, that'll come out next week. So also use that as a talking point there as well. On the scouting report, we do provide you all with some of the top work roles that are relevant to each category, so that you can use that as a talking point with your recruiters to say like, hey, I'm really good at, say, log analysis, and these are some like the top work roles that are associated with log analysis, and I demonstrate some really good aptitude in those areas, for example. And then again, having that discussion on the toolings and the techniques, then boom, you'll be able to do really well in a lot of those interviews.
All right, and then next question we have here: can you explain the cryptographic lottery problem?
Awesome. Another great question, and also another challenge that I had created. So that particular challenge is was a web app exploitation challenge in which it actually mirrored the it mirrored the lottery that you all have potentially seen in the NCL gymnasium right there, but with some enhanced security measures that were attached onto it. So specifically in that case, it was attaching on a HMAC, or a hash-based message authentication code, but it was done so in a very poor and insecure manner, so that you can actually exploit it for your own gain. A lot of web applications these days, they do use things like HMACs in order to authenticate a particular message, but they do generally do so in a much, much more secure manner than the one that we obviously have as the challenge. So in that was actually a really cool thing that I have personally only learned of not too long ago, maybe about a year ago only, in which you can actually take MD5 and SHA-1 hashes, and you can actually arbitrarily extend the length of those hashes without knowing the specific key or passphrase that was used in the beginning. So you do not actually need to know what somebody started the hash with, but if you are able to arbitrarily inject additional data, you can then split it up into the fixed block lengths of the MD5 digest output, and then you can just start putting on additional data afterwards. The specifics of it, there are tooling out there that's available to help you do this, or you can write your own custom Python script to do this as well. There is a Python-based library out there that is called like a hash extender or something. Somebody else has out there on GitHub. That is a super, super cool tool to look into. I won't get into a lot of the specific details of it, because it does involve some math understanding of how the hashing algorithm there works. But that is something that I would highly recommend, is if you're not familiar with how, say, a MD5 hash like gets actually computed, it is super interesting just to understand some of the math behind it. And you'll be glad at least to know that algorithms such as SHA-2 and SHA-3 are not vulnerable to this same kind of attack. So as a general best practice, avoid the usage of MD5 or SHA-1 hashes because they've been largely deemed as insecure or insufficient in providing high quality security. So for that one, if you want to learn more about it, you can also join the Discord chats in which we discuss through the methodology for that one in a lot more detail there as well. So yeah, so that's a very, very good question. Dylan, do you deal a whole lot with like web exploits or vulnerabilities of that nature?
Oh, all the time. And that's actually something that's going to be kind of interesting to talk about is I work in not just incident response, right, but incident response consulting. So, most like if you're working in a SOC, right, if you're running internal security for an organization, you spend a lot of time prepping for an incident and then an incident happens. Whereas in my job, there's always an incident. I'm constantly working on a live incident, right? And the thing is, it's my job to be able to adapt to whatever stack is being used all throughout the network, right? Because when you're working at one company, you can get used to the tools that they have, right? The SIEM, right? All of the different logs that they have, as well as like the different tooling and the stack that they're using. But we are dealing with a new stack every time. When a new NetScaler vulnerability hits, right, with some like weird buffer overflow thing that I don't understand, it's time for me to go figure it out because we're going to have customers walking through the door who have gotten hacked with it, right? And oftentimes when they walk through the door, they may know more than we do at the time, right? But because we do this every day and we do it consistently over and over, the ability to adapt to different things like that. So yeah, web application vulnerabilities all the time. Whether that's like the actual web server itself, an F5 or an IIS vulnerability, or if it's like sometimes we get, it's a custom web app and it was actually just like in a CTF, there was a vulnerability in the way the custom web app was written. And so we have to go and be able to do that. And so one of the cool things I think is being able to relate not just the skills that you have when you're looking for jobs and trying to break into this market, but also your ability to pick up new tools and new skills, because ultimately it's going to be rare for you to be applying for a job and you're already familiar with all of the software they use, everything they deal with. And at a company like mine, it's impossible. I was an intern for 2 years before I was hired on full-time at CrowdStrike. And some of the stuff that I was working with my first year at CrowdStrike like wasn't being used anymore for no other reason than threat actors just decided it wasn't a good tool to use anymore and they moved on. And so I developed skills in catching things like Cobalt Strike beacons, which I still see, but not nearly as much, right? And so being able to adapt and show that you can pick up new technologies and new skills with things like, being able to research an MD5 vulnerability that you weren't familiar with is super important and something you can definitely speak to on a resume and an interview, things like that.
So yeah, that's a super, super great insight there. I think the next question here, I think Franz is going to set up, is how do you solve the time stomping challenge? So that's also a really good question as well. So in that challenge, you all were provided with a disk image, and you had to find out which particular file was tampered with based upon the image that was provided. So that one was actually developed by Tristan. Tristan, do you want to talk a little bit about that particular challenge there?
Yeah, sure thing. So for those that don't know what time stomping is, it's a fancy way of saying that the attacker modified the date of when like the file was like last modified. So the way that you figure that out is on NTFS file systems. It's called the master file table, or MFT for short. So there are multiple tools that you can actually use to read the metadata out of the MFT. Some of this metadata includes like when the file was created and when it was last modified. So the challenge gave you a bunch of different files in a bunch of different directories, and only one had been changed. So there's a tool on GitHub called Analyze MFT. That was the one that I used to solve it while I was making the challenge. You can use that. That'll take in the MFT file, output some data about it, go through, parse it, and then you can then see the mismatched like dates in there, and there's a clear file that is very different from the rest of them.
Yeah, Dylan, do you usually work? Well, not maybe not usually. Do you deal with NTFS like file analysis? Is there like a preferred tool that CrowdStrike uses?
Yeah, so just for general like NTFS file analysis, it's kind of interesting that CrowdStrike will have different people that prefer different tools, and there's kind of like fiefdoms that have popped up of people that argue over what tools are better. But we're big proponents of Axiom, Xways. I myself am kind of an Xways person. I like being able to like look at the hex, and people get mad at the UI, but whatever. We have some people that are super crazy about Plazo, and then you can take Plazo and ingest that into something like Splunk. We also have some proprietary tools that we use for like triage. One of the things that we have to do a lot in what we do is triage systems, right? Because sometimes if you're looking at a network of 30,000 systems, you're not doing an NTFS analysis on each one of those, right? And so figuring out which ones are worth drilling into, and then drilling in and doing disk image analysis on those. I saw someone put easy tools in the chat. Absolutely. Eric Zimmerman is fantastic. But there's nothing inherently better about those tools versus free versions like Autopsy or FTK. Is FTK free? I don't even know. I'm not going to say that. Okay. But those are the tools that CrowdStrike uses. As for time stomping, I just about bashed my head into my desk when I saw that come up. Time stomping is something that always gets me. A lot of what I do is very much based around temporal analysis, right? And I think as a lot of you guys have seen through your journeys in cybersecurity, sometimes the answer is like not there, right? Okay, sometimes when you're doing forensics, the data has gone and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're going to have questions left unanswered, right? And a lot of what we rely on is temporal analysis, being able to say like, okay, this could not, B could not have been because of A, because B happened first, right? And time stomping can really mess with that. So having being able to make sure that you have a fundamental understanding of MFT, the NTFS file system, or FAT, or whatever file system you're using, and what time stomping would look like, and then looking at things like a lot of time stomping scripts aren't going to be grabbing out the a lot of time stomping scripts are going to take actually the timestamp of a legitimate file and use that timestamp as the timestamp, the time stomp, and a lot of them aren't going to grab down to the millisecond. So it's always a red flag for me if I'm scrolling through a file system and I see something with zeroed out milliseconds. I'm like, what? Did that actually happen at 000 milliseconds, or did somebody timestamp that? So being able to learn those little tips and tricks. But yeah, we work with that a lot.
Excellent. Yeah. So this is also another case where, if you were able to get the right tooling or right technique to solve that challenge, again, following some of the things that Dylan said here, you can really translate that to some of the in-demand skill sets, right? So being able to say, like, I was able to extract out the MFT from a NTFS file system, and then we were able to analyze it for some time stomping activity on there, and being able to talk about, this is how we found some file might have been tampered with by an adversary, right? Being able to talk about things like that is going to be super, super impressive for a recruiter or for a hiring manager, especially as you're looking at new grad roles or even internship roles there as well, because you'd be really surprised, actually. A lot of folks will go out there into interviews, and those are things that they don't necessarily know how to talk about. So if you're able to present yourself in a manner that you understand both the technical skills, and then also what are some of the use case implications, some of the stuff that Dylan just mentioned right here, you would stand out amongst the candidate pool by a very, very far mile. So, and this is something that's anybody and everybody that participates in the NCL can do. For this instance, we're talking about NTFS file system analysis specifically, but for other types of challenges, you can also apply that as well. So yeah, very good question on this one. And then Franz, what do we have next?
So we have, how do you find the true name of cloud in the book challenge?
Excellent. So in the book challenge, that was a individual game challenge. No, was that? Hang on. That was a team game challenge. in the forensics category here. So in that one, it was a memory dump of a live system, actually. And we can actually talk about some of the fun aspect of that. That's what happens with cybersecurity in the real world. So that one was actually created by Connor on our team here. So Connor, do you want to talk about how to solve that challenge?
Yeah, I can walk through that. So at a high level, this was a memory dump of a live Windows system that had a SQLite database open. So this was using a program, I think it's just called like Database Viewer or something like that, that had a SQLite database open in it. So when the memory dump was taking place, that database existed within memory. So what you could do is while looking through the file system and looking through running processes, you could see that database file is open. And in the spirit of the challenge, if you dump the process memory from the database viewer, you will be able to see the database in plain text as it was open. So this was just a relational database. There were 2 tables, like names and alias, I think, were the names of the tables. And so they had an ID, and in one table there had an ID, their first and last name, and then the other table there was their ID and then their alias. So for this, you would find the ID that matches up with cloud, and then go to the names table, and you would find that ID, and you can find the real name for cloud in this case.
And Connor, what tool did you use to actually then to read that memory?
Oh, sorry.
No,
so using Volatility 3 in this case. So there's 2 versions of Volatility. There's the legacy, at this point, Volatility 2. In certain cases, for this challenge specifically, didn't really work. So jumping over to the newer version, ported over to Python 3. So Volatility 3, if you use that, you can be able to analyze the memory within the memory dump that we gave you.
Yeah. So yeah, this one was a lot of fun, I think, for Connor to both create and also for folks to solve. A lot of the times, yeah, you'll do things like memory analysis in a forensic role, for example, and try to figure out like what happened on that machine and what was running on there, what data was on that machine. And so yeah, Dylan, is that something that you've had experience with on how would students be able to most effectively talk about how they can apply this CTF skill like to a job interview, for example?
Yeah, I think being able to talk about something like memory analysis is going to be really important, because I feel like that's one of those things that isn't taught at the college level as much or used as much. I know I didn't learn memory analysis in college. I also think that it would be important, especially when going into something like DFIR, right, to be able to speak to not only the technical aspect of here's how I would go about doing memory analysis, here's what what like modules I would use in Volatility or whatever, but also being able to relay the importance of memory analysis within the context of the overall process. So like we're going to be, even just understanding the idea that like we're going to be doing memory analysis when we've caught something. Oh, thank you for the acronym. We're going to be doing memory analysis when we've caught something while it's running, right? Whether that's a form of persistence that a threat actor put on a system that's been sitting there running in the background, right? Whether that is a fileless injection. I don't want to butcher this stat, but I think it was in CrowdStrike's global threat report in 2023. It was that like over 50% of attacks witnessed were malware free, and many of them were fileless, right? So executed purely in memory. You won't find anything on disk from like an NTFS analysis, right? So being able to speak to the importance of that and understanding where memory analysis fits into the process, right? It fits into taking things off of live systems. That's what the IR, an incident in DFIR is, right? It's incident response. So it is coming in the middle of an engagement, not after it's happened always and doing forensics, but being able to do live forensics, right? Grabbing that memory, getting the name of that cloud account, and then immediately being able to like use that to delete the account because it's an account the threat actor created, or use that to be able to double check, everything that the threat actor may have changed on that production SQL database you were working on is super important. And so being able to recognize the place of that can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, and actually, Dylan raises a really good point there, right? Is being slightly up to date on just like current security news and trends, right? So if you're able to cite some statistics, like Dylan mentioned, however many percentage of attacks are diskless, and they all exist in memory, that can showcase to a recruiter that you're not only knowledgeable about the technical aspects of how to do this, but you're understanding about current trends. What are some of the most pressing things that are in security today? Because chances are, if it is pressing, that means that that recruiter, that hiring manager is actively looking for people to fill those roles, right? So then if you can demonstrate that you're familiar with the trends and the tool sets, I mean, I would hire you. So that's a very, very good skill set to have. And also there's actually with this one, we wouldn't really call it an Easter egg because we didn't actually realize this until after the fact as well. So in doing incident response, you're always going to find some interesting stuff in the mix. So we actually ended up finding a very fascinating chunk of the memory that we did not realize was in there. Which actually came from the Windows Defender's definition. So within, because we took this off of a Windows system that we have put up, and the Windows Defender software was running on there, and within its definitions, there's actually a very massive list of not so great words that they use to detect like malware. We presume is because when people write malware, they don't have as much of a care for their choice of language. So I think Windows Defender actually picks out some of those files and explicitly flag those. So that's also some of the things that you might see in the in the security world, is that you'll see some things that are definitely an eye opener. So yeah, if anybody saw some interesting use of words in there, we promise we did not include that ourselves. It comes with Windows Defender. All right, next question, Franz. What else do we got in here?
So we have a question for how to solve the pizza question in log analysis.
How do we solve the pizza question in log analysis? Very good question on that one. So that one, I believe, was also the team game. So in that particular challenge, you got an EVTX file, which is a Windows event file. So that one actually came from Sysmon. So that one was created by Tristan. Do you want to talk a little bit about how to solve that one, Tristan?
Yeah, sure thing. I'd love to. So that was a Sysmon log. For those that don't know, Sysmon is a free third-party-ish tool. It's signed by Microsoft. It's a part of the Sys internal suite. It makes Windows logs significantly better. And the big thing with that log is there's an attacker who got onto a system, and the attacker's goal is that they want to exfiltrate data from that machine out to their machine. So one way of doing this is to use a technique called DNS exfiltration, in which you the attacker, control a DNS server, and you make DNS queries from the compromised machine out to that attack server. And generally, you're hiding the actual like contents of a file in the host name that you're trying to query. So in Sysmon, you can go through and you can actually see the commands that are being executed to take like the bit of data and then do an NS lookup on that URL. So you can then write a Python script or Bash or whatever scripting language that you choose to go through, assemble those bits, and then you can decode out the file that way.
Yeah. So that challenge there was a really fun one, I think, for Tristan to make, just because it's another way to showcase like the use of tools like Sysmon and their logging capabilities there, right? And I think like Dylan, you can also speak to this as well. Being able to do analysis of like some of the most popular like Windows monitoring tool sets. That's got to be something that you all do on a very, very common basis, right?
Oh yeah, every day. So being able to look at, so I'm a huge fan of log analysis. It's one of my favorite things to do at work. And so being able to look at both like logs you're familiar with and logs you're not, like if I had Sysmon enabled on everything that I did disk forensics on, life would be a breeze, right? And so, or at least easier than it is. And so being able to like not only look at logs that you're familiar with, but look at ones that you're not familiar with. Like if you put me in front of a Sysmon log, I wouldn't be familiar with every ID and every log type. Whereas if you put me in front of like Windows security.evtx, right, I can rattle off all those event IDs and what they do because I look at them every day. And so that's super important, is being able to rip into logs and kind of use pattern recognition to break through them. Also something that I think that this particular challenge, this question highlights, is the importance of networking knowledge. Right, because if you weren't aware of how DNS works, and I'm not super familiar with like what the actual challenge was, so I don't know if it was like exfiltrating over subdomain or something, but like if you weren't super familiar with how DNS works, you might struggle to find that data hidden in there, versus if you knew that like you saw an NS lookup going out, you know what that NS lookup does, right? Being aware just of the general networking can be super important. And also knowing how to rip through logs. Like you've got your EVTXs, but then sometimes you open up a log that's just a random assortment of data. Has anyone ever looked at a FortiGate log? Right. And so, being able to, whether it's having a little bit of like Python or Perl knowledge, not a lot, just enough to be able to format logs and view them and pare out the noise. Paring out noise is a lot of what we do.
Yeah, and Dylan actually raises a really good point at the end there, which is not only is knowledge in some of these like more standard log analysis tools useful. So obviously, if you know command line utilities, or if you're good with something like Elastic or Splunk, whatever it might be, while those tools are super, super powerful, it is also sometimes really good to have some basic level of programming or scripting knowledge. So something like Python, or if you're a Ruby enjoyer, or even a lot of people are using JavaScript these days, whatever it is that you're most comfortable with, knowing a little bit of programming / scripting knowledge is going to come a really long way, because you're going to run into things that are a little bit custom. It's not going to fit 100% neatly into one specific tool. And so having the ability to write your own custom scripts, and we're not even talking about like super, super complex software, like maybe somewhere between the magnitude of like 10 to 50 lines of code in a Python script, just to help you parse some information, run some regular expressions, maybe that can come in very, very handy. So that is one thing that I always highly recommend to folks who are solely, say, like in a cybersecurity or information security major, who aren't computer science majors. Learn just a little bit of a scripting language, pick your favorite, try the gamut, see which one you like between Python, Ruby, and say JavaScript, for example, and then learn enough so that you can create some small custom scripts just to help you automate some things. That can also come in really, really handy, and that can be something that differentiates you from the standard candidate who may be coming in without any of those programming background at all, and that can make you, again, stand out significantly more. So would really, really highly recommend that. So I think, so Brian in the chat here recommended CS50, and also being backed by Dylan, Harvard's free open courseware CS50 is very, very OP. So yeah, and Brian actually raises a really good point for things as we go forth with technology. ChatGPT is very much in our lives these days now. So if you want to basically have a free tutor on, well, I want to write this kind of code. How can I write some code like this? You can ask ChatGPT to generate some code snippets for you, and then you can use that as a way to practice, right? So you might be able to say like, oh, let me have, I want to solve this particular problem. Let me try to write the script myself, and then see, all right, this is what I can write. And then also ask ChatGPT to like generate a script as well. You can kind of compare and contrast, like, oh, what did ChatGPT generate in this case versus what did I do? And then you can also then compare and contrast to see like, well, did ChatGPT actually generate correct code, right? So then you can compare it with yourself and say, all right, was my code correct, or was the generated code there correct? And you can use that as a way to validate both either yourself or actually the large language model there as well. So that's a really good way to just like get some additional practice, even if you don't necessarily have classes that are available for this. So that's also a really, really good piece of advice. So yeah. All right, next question. What do we have here? So more pizza questions. How do you solve the Pizza Hut question? So for this one, it was an open source intelligence question. So the question itself didn't tell you that it was Pizza Hut directly, but you were given a list of, I believe, 3 or 4 different addresses, and then you were asked to find basically the subsequent place that they will arrive in. And specifically, we has suggested it would be in Iwaki, Japan. So this one was actually created by Max. Max, you want to talk a little bit in terms of like the inspiration and also like the thought process in terms of solving it?
Sure, yeah. So that one was a fun one. There is a online map of used to be Pizza Huts, and all those addresses came from that map. And so the thought process of how to solve it is to go into Google Street View of all those addresses, and you should see the iconic Pizza Hut roof on all those buildings, but they're no longer Pizza Huts. I believe one of them was, yeah, I actually forgot. But there are a whole bunch of different buildings that weren't Pizza Huts, but they all had the roof. And then that was the connecting part, is they all used to be Pizza Huts. Not that they are currently. So then if you went and just Googled used to be Pizza Hut, there's a blog that would come up and you could just follow it. This was the blog that we used. And there's only one address that was in Japan, specifically in Iwaki, which makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, this one was really fun. Actually, Max had when he was done with the challenge, like sends it to me. I was like, oh gosh, we need to also account for the fact that somebody could submit this in Japanese as well. So I know a lot of folks actually open support tickets with us and say like, do you support non-English street address in this as well? I was like, yes we do, but English is also supported, so pick your favorite. So for that one, like we went in and actually studied like how does Japanese street addresses work specifically, because fun fact, it is the opposite from what most Western countries are used to. Japanese street addresses start with the prefecture, and then the city name, and then the district within the city, and then the street name, and then finally they'll have the street number. So I had to actually go in, do some research into that. We even got to a point where we pulled up like Yahoo Maps Japan, because Japan still uses Yahoo in 2023, when like us as Americans look at it and like, what the hell is Yahoo? Like we don't know what Yahoo is. But that one was really fun, I think, to make. And then we actually did the research to make sure we got the Japanese name for the Pizza Hut there correct. A lot of the people, their biggest mistakes actually on this challenge was that they actually broke away from the consistency in the pattern that they found, right? So like Max mentioned, it's like it used to be a Pizza Hut. It is no longer a Pizza Hut. So a lot of people actually ended up opening support tickets with us asking, hey, we found the Pizza Hut in Iwaki. Why is this not correct? Well, so if you'll, for anybody that did open support tickets, you'll see that we actually suggested that you need to be consistent with your own process. So check your process and be consistent with your process. Because you're so close, you're there. Just be consistent with your process, but we obviously didn't give any hints out. Just be consistent with your process, and you'll go back and you'll realize that they were all formally Pizza Huts, not actively a Pizza Hut, and you'll get the iconic hut shape up there. So yeah, it's a very very fun challenge to make, and OSINT. Well, for some people, it may not necessarily feel like strong technical cybersecurity knowledge. It is a very, very useful skill set to have if you're in offensive cybersecurity. If you're acquiring a target, you want to know as much about that particular target as possible. And even if you're on defensive cybersecurity side, understanding how you yourself as an organization may become a target, whether the information out there available on yourself as an organization is going to be super important. So if there are things that you need to remove from from the internet, or just to mitigate yourself as a target risk, that is very much a skill set, because a lot of cybersecurity is just leveraging the information that's open and available out there on the internet. Yeah, Dylan, I see you nodding your head. You seem like an OSINT enjoyer here as well.
Yeah, I definitely don't use it at work as much as I'd like to. It just doesn't come up as much. But OSINT's definitely very important. One of the things that CrowdStrike does a large amount of is generate and work on threat intelligence, right? And threat intelligence is super important, like, thing to generate, to help keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on, what threat actor groups are doing, what motivations are, right? And we have to remember that, like, cybersecurity is by nature adversarial, right? We're protecting ourselves from ultimately people. And so being aware of those people, being aware of their motivations, being able to track and hunt different things, as well as from like an offensive perspective, right? Being able to identify a target and information about the target is super important. And having, the ability to do that. Also, just the ability to effectively research is something that's going to make you a very valuable candidate. I can't tell you the amount of times where I've been at work and I've been faced with a new piece of technology, maybe a new, you're looking at something and you're like, could this be 0-day? Like, could this be something that we haven't seen before? And it's like, okay, well, nobody at work is going to know any more about that than I do, even if they've been working here for 20 years. If it's a new piece of technology, or if it's a new piece of whatever, they might have some experience to draw on, but they're no more experts on that than I am. And so being able to do the research and to find different information that might be buried in the basement of some forum somewhere can be super, super vital to, I would say, any job in cybersecurity.
Yeah. So very, very good points there. So with that, actually, Dylan, do you want to share a little bit about what kinds of roles that CrowdStrike might be hiring, and what are some potential opportunities for folks who might want to join CrowdStrike, or what are some of the best recommendations if people want to apply to CrowdStrike?
Yeah, absolutely. So we hire for a plethora of roles. I don't know, Toby, what exactly the age group we're looking at here is. It's the entire spectrum of college, right?
Yeah, entire spectrum. We also have some continuing education folks. We have some career transitioners as well. The vast majority are your standard 20-year-olds. But there are obviously lots of folks who may be anywhere between 30 to 50. Actually, I believe is the remainder of the age spectrum there as well.
Okay, absolutely. So CrowdStrike has a variety of different teams that we hire onto, right, all the time. There's the team I work on, which is professional services. So everything that's going to be like a service that we provide to our customers. Professional services is going to include your incident response, strategic, which is going to be any sort of working through like readiness engagements, tabletop exercises, things like that. And our red team, right? Our external red team, you can hire CrowdStrike to do a plethora of different types of red team engagements. That's the most detail I can give there because I'm not a red teamer. We also have our wonderful Falcon Complete and Overwatch team. Both of them are in different ways actively monitoring our Falcon platform, right? Falcon's our next generation endpoint detection and response platform that we provide to customers. And so Overwatch is the 24/7 active threat hunting team that we have. Falcon Complete is our managed detection and response team that are constantly keeping our customers safe. And some of what I do, actually a lot of what I do, incidents that I respond to, come from a detection that came out of our Overwatch team. All of them hire regularly for entry-level positions that you can find on our careers page at crowdstrike.com. We also I don't want to say all, but I think most of those departments hire interns every year. I know my department specifically, I've worked with Toby a lot because we run some of our hiring through the Cyber Skyline platform, which has been fantastic. My particular team hires interns at this year, I believe, at the rising junior level, as well as the rising senior level, as well as the Falcon Complete team and the Overwatch team are going to be hiring as well. If your interest is more into programming and development, we have, in my opinion, the best endpoint detection response system on the market. And so our software engineering is huge. We're constantly working on new things. We've got that we're going to be rolling out, or we have started rolling out our next generation SIEM product called LogScale, formerly known as Humio, right? And we're constantly trying to push the boundaries of innovation. A couple of things we talk about at CrowdStrike a lot, some of our core values is a relentless focus on innovation, and constantly driving to make a better experience for the customer, right? And ultimately, we're backed by the idea of one team, one fight. And it's really, I think it's been really impactful for me being at CrowdStrike and being in a community where if I'm struggling with something, if I have a customer that's struggling with something, I can call on anybody that I know, and they're going to be more than happy to help to give their expertise. So absolutely take a look at our career page and apply. Feel free to reach out to our university recruiting. I'm friends with a bunch of the university recruiting people, and they are awesome. I love them to death. And you can also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or anything like that. Always happy to help and point you in the right direction. But absolutely, if you guys can do what you're doing here at NCL, you can absolutely take the next step into the career focused world. I'm excited to see you there.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Dylan, for that. It's really helpful for folks to get an understanding of how they can apply their cybersecurity CTF skills into a real world job role. So, and I can definitely agree with what Dylan has said there. They're always looking to make the experience better for both their customers and also even for their candidates as well. Because Dylan and I actually have worked a lot in the past on getting the CrowdStrike assessment. So like Dylan mentioned, they use Cyber Skyline for assessing candidates coming in through the door as well. So Dylan has spent a lot of time and effort actually developing the challenge that is used in the CrowdStrike assessment there. And I've seen him put a lot of his sweat and effort into it. So definitely do check out CrowdStrike for some internship and also new grad opportunities. I'll also echo on his point, the university recruiting team, everyone on there is super awesome. Do reach out to them and discuss any potential openings that they might have. They are always looking for bright and talented people, and it really helps that the university recruiting team is intimately familiar with the NCL. So do talk about your NCL experience. They're going to love you. So with that being said, I want to thank Dylan for his time being here tonight. We'll let you get back your evening now to get some much needed rest. The rest of the Cyber Skyline team will stay on for a little bit more, answering some additional lingering questions here as well. But thank you so much, Dylan, for being here. Insights were fantastic and phenomenal. So thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Take care, Dylan. So yeah. So we're going to try to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes here or so. I think that's kind of where we're going to be looking at. To wrap it up here, I know there were some lingering questions in the Menti page. We won't be able to get to all of it. If you are interested in finding out more solutions to the different kinds of challenges, join the Discord. We have a dedicated channel that lists out challenge by challenge with both some tips and advice from us on methodologies and techniques, along with what is being shared by other members of the community here as well. So it's super useful for you all to get a chance to learn how to solve maybe some of these challenges and apply it in the future. So to wrap it up tonight, I want to ask everybody on the engineering team here to share actually their favorite challenge that they created. And then also just talk a little bit about, the inspiration behind that challenge, and maybe the creation process, or even some of the challenges that you ran into in creating that challenge. So whichever you would prefer. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first? Somebody? No one?
I'll go first.
Max, your go. Let's do it.
All right. So this is my first year making challenges. And I have two that I would say are my favorite. The first one had to have been the tree question that so many of you suffered with. And that inspiration actually came from watching Suits. So if you see like the name Liberation v. Lawyers, the theming, it was trying to be like a deposition theme. And how that challenge actually came about was I was talking with friends about like weird online maps that you can just find, like weird online databases. And then the next day I actually got an advertisement from the GeoBull, I think is his name, the guy who does the crazy geolocation searches. But he essentially had this New York City map, and I was New York City tree map, and I kind of thought, oh, perfect. That's a weird map. I can link it with Suits. And fun fact, you can actually find that exact tree in the first episode of Suits. That would be your homework, to go and find that tree. It is possible. And then I'd say my second favorite challenge that's kind of equally up there was the Witter challenge. That was the first challenge that I ever made. First one that I got it made. And I kind of stuffed it full of memes. I enjoyed Twitter during that. When I was making it was like before X was a thing. And then I got to throw in my cats in there for the memes. So that one was all a very fun experience to make, fun experience to watch people try to solve. So yeah, it was a blast to be on this side, making the competitions.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Max, for sharing. Somebody in the chat said that you were very brave for admitting that you made the tree challenge. So we promise the goal is not to necessarily stress people out for these challenges. A lot of it ends up being really easy for some people to solve, being really difficult for some people to solve, and we see it all over the place. Like it was really interesting because when we looked into some of the analytics for the tree challenge, we saw some people were able to solve it in like under 10 minutes, and then we've obviously saw people that were struggling with it for hours in the Discord as well. So it's very just, I don't know, very interesting to see like
it was very polarized. People either loved it or people either hated it. And I think that makes a successful challenge, at least for me. So yeah.
So excellent. Who else wants to go next? Connor?
I can go next.
Go for it. Yeah.
So also controversial for mine, because there are some people that the tool didn't really work well for them. But this was the text de-blurring challenge. So I really enjoyed that challenge. It may not have worked for a lot of people, and apologize for that. We're working on getting things better. But I came across an article trying to like mathematically unblur text in pictures. And I thought that was just super fascinating. And a lot of these challenges that we make is because we come across some article of some like very niche research, something. It's like, oh, hey, that'd be a cool challenge. And for me, that was mine, that I really enjoyed reading through that whole thing and seeing like the thought process behind people trying to do this type of research. I thought that was really cool. So that was mine.
Awesome. Yeah, and here's a free hint for everybody. If you ever want to be a step ahead of the NCL challenge creators, all of us are subscribers to r/netsec, NETSEC, which I would highly recommend to you all as well as a resource, because there are a lot of articles that are posted on there. I've been subscribed to that subreddit for literally the last like 10 plus years now. And in the very beginning, I was like, yeah, these are words. These are definitely words, and they're in English, and I understand these words. Until, as you read a little bit more about it, you start to understand the vocabs a little bit more, and you start, all right, these are now phrases that I can start to understand. And then the more you get into security and the more you progress in your education, you participate in more competitions, suddenly all of those, formerly independent words that you knew can start actually come together and you start to understand a lot more like what these articles are talking about. People will put vulnerability disclosures on there. People will put, maybe like a fun side project that they were able to create. They post their GitHub, for example, for a project. And that's a really good educational resource that I would recommend to anybody. And again, it's going to be very daunting at first, and a lot of it is not going to make sense to you. But you gotta start somewhere, and then you don't necessarily know what are some of the new vocabs to learn if you never even see those vocabs before, right? It's kind of like learning a brand new language. You'll learn some of those vocabs. You'll go to a dictionary, look up. All right, what does this mean? Like, let's say you're trying to learn Italian. Grazie. That means thank you. So you kind of look those things up, and then as you go forth, that's how you learn more and more vocab, for example. And the same thing here applies into these technical terms for cybersecurity as well. If you don't know what to even look up, then you're never going to necessarily even learn about it. So you start there and then go forth, and you'll learn a lot more. So that's also a really good point. r/netsec. So if I can get a link here, I'll post that. Oh, Franz already posted it. Never mind. So yes, r/netsec. So yeah, it's really good. There, I don't know if it still exists, but there used to be a NetSec student, I believe. I don't know if that's still active or not, but that's also something you can potentially check out. But yes, don't be afraid by some of the big vocabs or just foreign concepts that are on there. You start just getting to know some of them, and then you may want to look them up on either between Wikipedia or other like industry resources and whatnot. And this is the point that I would especially recommend is talk to your professors, right? You can go to office hours and talk to your professors about, hey, I learned about this concept within security. Do you know any more about this? Like, I'd love to get some of your insights. It's a great chance to get to know your professors. And it's a great opportunity to then learn some new information that you may not otherwise get to know in class, because your professors may be able to share some of those materials that were not a part of class before. So it never helps to get to know your professors better, because you'll need maybe a letter of recommendation for a job or for a scholarship application or something, and then your professor already knows you at that point, so you don't need to get to know them from scratch. So would highly recommend that. And plus, I'm sure it wouldn't be detrimental if you need some extra credit at the end of the semester if your professor knows you, right? So that's what we call social engineering skill sets. So ethical social engineering. All right, Tristan, do you want to talk about yours?
So my favorite one was by no means controversial. It was a network traffic analysis question. It was specifically the one about BGP, which, for those that don't know, that's a border gateway protocol. It is one of probably the most used routing protocols currently. And the reason that was my favorite was it wasn't necessarily a hard challenge, but it was a challenge that would like force people to like learn about something they probably wouldn't really mess with that much, because most people aren't changing BGP settings or looking into BGP that much, unless you work for like an ISP.
Yep. BGP is a very important part of like the internet backbone. In fact, it is surprisingly vulnerable. There are a number of incidents surrounding BGP hijacking. I will leave you all with this Wikipedia article on the public incidents with BGP. And Brian also linked that the Cloudflare blog post there about how Facebook inadvertently shut themselves down due to a number of factors, and one of which does also involve BGP there as well. So there was instance where I believe it was Pakistan Telecom had actually inadvertently sucked in all of YouTube's traffic into Pakistan. So they originally were trying to only block it within the country, but it inadvertently got leaked across the entire internet, and that actually resulted in Google having to do a number of things to try to get traffic back to the actual YouTube servers. Same things happen with like Russian telecoms and also China Telecom. A lot of it where state-sponsored censorship may exist. BGP is also used as a tool for censorship when they need to block certain kinds of information on the internet. But BGP fundamentally is used to communicate, well, where does internet traffic flow to, right? Like we kind of think of it as, here's the cloud, it's just out there, but it's a server farm somewhere in Northern Virginia, for example, or somewhere out in New York City, California, so on and so forth. So really, really interesting concept to learn about. Franz, did you have a personal favorite one, or?
I'd say my personal favorite one was was art from the team game. So for those of you who don't know, the art challenge, we had a custom, basically like file specification, and gave you a binary file, and you had to follow the specification to figure out, how do I recover the message from that file? The reason why that's my favorite is that a lot of schools don't teach you how to follow a spec and like implement a program or tool to read binary. And so this is a huge learning experience for a lot of people, but it is also something that you can learn over the course of a weekend. It's like that sweet spot where like a good number of people who haven't done it before, but also if you haven't done it before, you can pick it up on the fly. So for that challenge in particular, you basically had to like read the headers to figure out how long each line of the message was, because when you're getting the file, it's just like just a binary stream. And when you try to, you'd have to first XOR the binary to get the plain text ASCII. But even when you get the plain text ASCII, the message is an ASCII art. And that requires you to have the number of characters per line correct. Otherwise, you can't read it. You need the correct alignment to be able to see it. So you'd have to get the exact character count for each line, and then do like a new line, insert a new line every I think it was like 117 characters or something like that. And then that would actually like align each line properly so you can actually read it. So that was a fun one, because it was something that, again, a lot of people probably haven't done that through their classes in school, but you definitely can learn how to solve that challenge over the duration of the weekend.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, there's kind of echoes like towards the one of the points that we called out earlier with Dylan there as well, is like learning some very basic levels of scripting, and not anything like super advanced, right? Like if you can do Python or Bash scripting for that matter, that can really help in some of those protocol challenges as well, like Franz had mentioned. You can definitely do it by hand as well, but having some scripting knowledge there could make it a little bit faster potentially. So that's also a really good point there. For myself, at the end here, I'll share what was my favorite challenge. It wasn't anything super technically advanced, but I had a lot of fun making it, which was the Roots challenge in the team game. I believe, that was filed under crypto. So you got this kind of like forward X amount, right whatever degrees, and then like pen up, pen down, so on and so forth. So if you solve that challenge, you'll know that it's a programming language called Logo, Logo, like graphic logo. It's a super old language, like developed back in the 80s. And the reason for why it was called Roots is actually because that programming language was literally the very first thing that I ever did on a computer, like ever, in third grade. Our teachers taught us how to use the turtle drawing software, is like what people described it as, because the little icon for logo was a little turtle. So we used the turtle drawing software, and that was a way that people taught how to do programming, by visually pathing out something. So I think I spent like a solid 45 minutes or an hour one evening meticulously spelling out the flag with logo, and then just making sure that, all right, the curves are correct, everything lines up decently okay. And then that one was just one that I had a lot of fun with. It was very nostalgic for me. And later I actually found out that it is actually used in a lot more places than I thought, because there's a Python package also called Turtle, which is used to help teach people Python, actually. Believe the one that I know of is, I think, RIT, their like intro to computer science class, does precisely that, which is teach people Turtle via Python as the intro class. So and yeah, like folks mentioned, it ports over to Turtle very, very nicely there as well. So that one was a lot of fun for me to make, just because it was so nostalgic for me. Literally the very first thing, it was like on like an MS-DOS system or something. I don't even remember. On like a big fast CRT monitor, like way back in third grade. So that was a very fun time. I will also share one additional story, and then we'll wrap it up for this evening, because somebody in the chat there, Flag Stealer, mentioned reversing the ARIA2C format was a bit more painful. So ARIA2 is a download manager software. So we did both ARIA2 in the individual game for you all to reverse engineer, not reverse engineer, but rather like follow the specification as well for the ARIA2 metadata file. So we did that for the individual game. And for team game, we actually gave you all a Docker image that had ARIA2 installed, and it was downloading a bunch of things in there. And if you notice that that particular challenge name was called Academic Papers, and like, why would it be called Academic Papers? There's a great and phenomenal story about that, actually, that I actually got to tell in a Discord voice channel after the team game had ended, like that same evening. I told the story there. So if you were there, you already know what this is. But if you weren't there, I would like to share the story now, because this is a phenomenal story. So Franz knows exactly what it is. Actually, the rest of the engineering team all know it as well, because we've told this story so many times. The reason for why it's called Academic Papers, actually, we have to go back in time to when Franz and I were in a computer networks class way back when. And for our final project in that class, our professor handed us the URL to the BitTorrent protocol page, and then said, for your final project, implement a BitTorrent client to specification written in C. You have 2 weeks. Good luck. And we're both like, wait, I'm sorry, what? You have to, what? Oh, it'll also be a group project, so it's okay. I was like, okay, all right. So blood pressure coming down a little bit, or feeling a little bit better. And then so he started going over the BitTorrent protocol itself. And so the professor asked the class, who here has heard of BitTorrent? Everybody raises their hand. All right, great. And then who here has used BitTorrent? Maybe like 2 or 3 people raises their hand very begrudgingly, right? And then so he sees this one student has his hand raised. And then so the professor asks, oh, great. What do you use BitTorrent for? And the student answers, academic papers. And the professor turns back, oh yeah? What was the title of the last academic paper that you downloaded? And the student turns back and says, Rush Hour 3? And the professor said, yes, great paper written by Dr. Jackie Chan, huh? So so that kind of became a whole joke in itself, in that BitTorrent was used to download academic papers. And so for the final project to actually submit it, we had to meet with our TAs for the class and to demonstrate to them that our BitTorrent client works to specification and that we're able to download a real live torrent out there on the internet. And so obviously, to not get kicked out of school, we did not go and download Rush Hour 3 on our BitTorrent clients for obvious reasons. So we decided to be cheeky. We found this website boggles my mind. This still exists today. Like, it's phenomenal. And the website was specifically called academictorrents.com, and it was phenomenal. So we were on there. We found a paper on academictorrents.com, and we showed our TAs, look, we're going to download a academic paper from academictorrents.com using our totally legit BitTorrent client that we have developed right here. And look, we download it, and here's the paper. Ta-da! Like, that just became a whole inside joke for us for a really long time. And then when I titled it, I was like, yeah, nobody's going to understand this, but I got to tell this story afterwards, just because it became such a fun story between my friend group and everybody on our engineering team now. So here it is. If you ever want to tell people a story about using BitTorrents to download academic papers, it is entirely possible to download completely legitimate academic papers using BitTorrent. So there you go. So with that, I think we'll wrap up on our evening right here. It's almost 9 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you very much for everybody for joining us tonight. And thank you again to Dylan for being here tonight and answering some of the questions that I had for him. And hopefully that gives you all a chance to understand how you can apply some of your CTF skills to job interviews, to talking to recruiters, and being able to make that leap forward. I know for a lot of people, again, they see that 1 to 3 years of job experience required and they see that as very daunting. Literally every single recruiter and every single person that has worked in the industry will tell you, just kind of like casually ignore that one very specific line in the job requirements and then just go talk to people, talk to recruiters, talk to engineers, talk to hiring managers, and then tell them about some of the skill sets that you have learned and you have demonstrated within cybersecurity competitions. It doesn't have to be just the NCL. Again, if you participate in things like CCDC, CPDC, Cyberforce, if you even did Cyber Patriot in high school, whatever it is that you have done before, talk about those skill sets and relate it to some of the modern trends that exist out there. And then even ask your hiring managers and your recruiters, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you deal with on a day-to-day basis as a company, right? And then, write that down, go back, do some research about it, come back and talk to them about, oh yeah, like I have some skill set in some of the biggest challenges that you face. And, I've done cybersecurity competitions, I've done NCL, I have a scouting report that can showcase my skill set right here. Love to have a conversation with you on that. And boom, boom, boom. That's at least a step towards getting an internship. I can make no guarantees that you'll get an internship by just talking to people. Job market is competitive out there, but it's the first step forward in breaking into an industry. It's just to talk to people. You'll get rejections along the way. You'll get ghosted along the way. But as one of my friends joke, and this is, again, entirely a joke, all it takes is for one person to mess up and hire me. Is what he said. So, but if you look at it in a different perspective, all it takes is for one person to say yes, and now you have an internship, and now you have a career in the industry, right? You may need to talk through 10, 20, maybe for folks even 50 or 100 people. I've seen that happen, and people have genuinely talked to like 100 different companies until they got their very first job offer. It can be tough. It can be exhausting. But you're not going to be able to enter industry if you don't take that very first step forward. So I encourage everybody to take that very, very first step forward, and just see what's out there. Go to the career fairs, network with recruiters, network with the hiring managers, and see what's available out there for you. Because I think if you all can do the challenges here, and no matter what level you're able to compete at, if you can do easy level challenges, you're ready for at least an internship. Honestly, at that point in time, you'd be really surprised at what people that don't participate in cybersecurity competitions can't do, rather, actually, in this case, right? So if you're able to complete easy level challenges, I would say, yeah, go for that internship job rec, and just see what happens. If you're able to do medium and hard level challenges, yeah, you are very much so on your way towards kickstarting your career there. So have the confidence in yourself, and just know that, again, if you're able to do some of these challenges, look for job roles that are aligned with those challenges and take that first step forward. So Yeah, like Christopher here mentioned, you're never underqualified. Apply to the job and see what happens. The job posting is absolutely a wish list from the recruiters, right? That a lot of times they're like, if we can get just half of this wish list, we're good, right? You don't need to meet every single point on there. So I really do encourage you all to take the first step forward. From everything that we've seen on our side, from every single NCL player here, y'all have done incredible, and y'all have more than demonstrated that you're ready to take that leap forward. So go forth, conquer, do it, apply, smash that send button, whatever it is, do it. Let's go. So all right, with that being said, thank you all again very much for a wonderful fall season here. We will see you all very shortly in the spring. Spring season registration opens on January 29th. Not a very long time away. So take care, everyone. Have a good evening.